Hello legends and super legends, welcome to Veloharmony. Today is, we're expecting rain again. It's been beautiful all week. I mean, we were in the 20s Celsius a couple of days during the week, and Saturday comes and we're expecting more rain. So it's a conspiracy, but we got to deal with it. I'm all geared up. I got my Castelli rain covers on. I'm wearing my blue jersey because I think it goes best with my rain cape came in. I'll do a separate review on that. And I'm wearing this, and the protein works well with other protein stuff. So I can slip on the rain cape without it feeling like there's anything on there. It's a really nice piece of kit. That's what I'm wearing today. On top of this, I've got a base layer of this and this because it's supposed to be from 7C to probably 9.5, 10C. That's the range today during the ride. And since it's going to be wet and we got a front from the north, all of that is a factor. So I'm not just wearing these gloves, I'm going to layer them with the merino wool layer. I was going to wear this neck warmer, but that would have been too much. With this hat that I'm wearing, the protein cap covering my ears, that should be good. So it's cold and wet. I'm going to go ahead and get ready and hopefully get some clips for you guys. I don't know who's going to be there today. I know Paul's going to be there. The other two guys were going to join us one more time before they headed back, but they said they had a meeting. So they had planned to work later in the day, but they had to go to an early meeting. So Jose and Hugo is not going to be there. So I expect Paul, only Paul, because nobody else RSVP'd. So let me get ready.
This week's ride was an interesting one. I started out with a Colnago. I had been having problems with the shifting over the last 10 days, adjusting and readjusting. And right here on the ride, the chain broke. We were about to go through the intersection. Thankfully, I called my wife and she brought my other bike and basically did a pit crew exchange. And we're able to continue the ride. We probably waited about 20-25 minutes, which was remarkable because we're quite a ways from the house. It actually happened at the same intersection where Jose had a soft tire slowly 2 weeks ago. Same spot. We just stood on that same corner and waited. So it all worked out. It turned out to be a mechanical thing with the wheel that caused the chain to get out of alignment, which put a lot of pressure on the pin, and so the pin popped. So I was able to figure out what caused the problem.
Super legends, guys and girls, starting this ride.
So you can see I have the Colnago here at the start.
So
and
I was gonna wear my liners, but I decided to leave them back. They just feel a little too tight in these gloves. And
yeah, some liners don't work well with the gloves. I was going to wear liners with those thin solid gloves from Endura. And it turned out it wasn't necessary for the weather anyway, thankfully. But it just felt too tight in here.
It's going to be overcast the whole day, so I'm putting on my lights.
So I'm getting everything kind of set up here. I'm running slightly behind. By the time I round this intersection here, I will see Paul. He'd already come all the way.
I need to do something with this man.
So it's about 7:33 almost. I did not put on the metrics on this clip because at this point nothing's on.
Set for indoor workout, which is not what I'm doing today.
I had an issue with the setting on the computer, and then wearing those gloves, nothing was working. I couldn't. The touch screen was not responding
Tell me I gotta take this
to
thing
my
off.
gloved hand.
I hate to take off my gloves to have to deal with this, but it looks like I may have to.
So as I come up here, right after the next intersection, I spot Paul. So we end up dealing with it and then actually riding back to the
my
start.
gloves and get this computer set up, because these gloves don't have the thing on the fingertips like the protein glove does, that will allow me to use. I see Paul over there.
Yeah, Paul's right up there
Help me
coming.
set it up.
I chose the Thinsulate Endura gloves because they are waterproof. They get wet, but your hands don't get wet. The water does not go through. And they actually perform
Right on
great.
time, my brother. Good morning. Listen, hold this for me. I'm gonna need your gloves because I think I'm having trouble getting this thing, the screen to move.
Okay.
Yeah, hold that. Let me take this off.
All right. Nice
Because-
jacket, by the way, man.
Huh?
Nice
Yeah,
jacket.
that's the rain cape that it came in yesterday.
Okay.
Trying to figure out.
Man, that's like it's
Yeah,
right.
Paul was complimenting me about my jacket. The rain cape,
That color.
just it's a keeper. After this ride, I was
Trying
sold.
to get to the main.
Love everything about it.
So
Fit.
I was trying to set everything.
I'll do a review on it in the next couple of weeks or so.
It's just-
So I had done an indoor workout and I had that thing on the
Oh, the
indoor
Piroja.
setting, so I needed to move it to
Yeah, because
training
it's
ride.
cold,
That's what's
man.
on the
I don't want
computer.
it to get wet
If you don't do that, then you don't get the GPS readings and all of that. So that was pretty important. And I couldn't do it with the gloves on, so I got that sorted.
So, and then I wore these. I'm wearing these waterproof.
Yeah.
Last week my hands got wet. I was testing the protein gloves because it's not waterproof.
Okay.
The Endura gloves I'm wearing right there, the Thinsulate ones, they work great.
Call it a
I have the link. I'll verify, but I'm gonna put the link out on the recommended cycling products on
I
Veloharmony.com.
put the GABA on
Because
today
those gloves
because
are
I start
great.
having a
I haven't found anything that
last
Rafa
night-
has that
yesterday
keeps water
because I
out.
was outside,
Those gloves
working on the
keep you warm
cars
and
the
dry.
garage and stuff.
They're not gonna go much below,
So
say,
Frank is not coming?
3C comfortably.
wasn't over
You'll
there.
need liners.
He didn't send any RSVP, so. Yeah, it's,
Paul was
it's,
asking
what-
if
what
anybody
time
else
is
was
it?
coming, and I told him that nobody else sent an RSVP, so
wanna roll over there?
we went ahead and rode back to the start. So at this point in the ride, it had been raining really, so we kept the camera off. This is on Goslin. We're heading to the Woodlands. I'm still on the Colnago at this point, and Paul is pulling. We're going over the bridge here. And I just turned on the camera, so I'm getting it situated. I'm riding up to Paul here. It was good. I went back and reverse engineered what caused the chain to break. It was not the chain's fault. The chain was not the reason. The reason was there was a misalignment on the skewer of the wheel I was using. I used that wheel for multiple purposes, and I trade the skewer out because I use it on the trainer as a trainer, the skewer that came with the trainer. And somehow there was some piece of metal that got in there and jammed there's a little spring on your skewer. It's like a cone shaped spring that you use to pretty much keep the skewer, the nut and the skewer equidistant from the dropout. And some piece of metal got in there and it stopped the spring from basically performing like an accordion. And so it threw the alignment of the wheel off. So it was giving me a lot of problems with shifting. I kept adjusting and readjusting the shifting over the last couple of weeks, thinking that it was just something to do with tuning my shifting. And it ended up being that the chain was out of line, so it was putting a lot of pressure on the pins. And, you know, at this point in the ride, it just broke. I mean, it snapped, and the chain was like 2 months old. So that's what caused it. And how I found out was I was going to use the same wheel on another bike and had trouble getting it in the dropout on that bike. Then I noticed there was a jammed piece of metal in there on the skewer side where the handle is between that and the little spring. So I don't know what that was, but I got that sorted out and replaced the spring, and now everything's fine. So I ordered a new chain for the bike. The bike is pretty much just, I got it on the stand. So, you know, your chain breaks, you're basically done. You have no drivetrain. But it was good to understand and find out what happened, because I knew it wasn't the chain. I've been riding for almost 3 decades, and I've never broken a chain till Saturday on this ride. And that was a first for me, because I keep up with my maintenance very well, very meticulously. I replace those chains before they're worn. So that's when you have problems when they're worn. So yeah. But anyway, it was handled. Thankfully, my wife was fabulous in coming by and bringing the other bike, so we were still able to ride. So that was great. That's another good reason for having multiple bikes. Something happens to a bike, doesn't have to be same situation like me, but you could have a problem with a bike and the part's not available right away. You just ride the other bike until you can get it sorted out. That's another thing for a good reason to have, if you can afford it, more than one bike. So on today's ride, it's just Paul and I. We rode back to the start. We didn't see anybody there. We just took off. And rain is forecasted. It's not raining right this moment, but yeah, we get rain now. So there's a lot of traffic all of a sudden, and we're trying to get in that left lane. So when Paul saw me, we were talking about the computer, and you know, he notices everything. I call him Terminator, and he just said, "Nice jacket." That rain cape is A+. At this point, I just had it open because I was comfortable without it. But if it's zipped all the way up, what I ended up doing was leaving this zipper on the sleeves open, and you get a nice flow of wind in there to keep you comfortable. Because the temperature is not super cold. You see it says 5C, but still for me, with that thermal Pro Team jersey, it's actually perfect without the jacket. So when I put the rain jacket on, I ended up keeping it a little unzipped at the top and then leaving the sleeves open most of the time. Later in the ride, it cooled off even more, so then it was not an issue. So we're going a little downhill here. It says -1. It rolls a little bit and then it levels off. We're approaching the first climb. I'm still on the Colnago at this point, and I'm still getting the noise from the chain. It feels like it's not quite seated on the gears. You know, I'd spent the last couple of weeks messing with it, thinking it was just a shifting issue, and I'm glad I was able to ascertain what caused it, because you know, I was ready to come and give a vendor a hard time about the chain I had procured from them. So I was puzzled. I like to understand why things happen, because I don't plan on carrying my entire toolkit when I go on a ride. So that's why I keep my bikes maintained. So if you get noises from your chain, if it's making noise like it's not seated and it's not a shifting issue, be wary. Check the wheel, check the skewer, make sure it's lined up. That was the issue here on today. Anyway, so we come to this first climb, and even Paul could hear the noise. As I powered, I basically used a pretty low gear, I guess, like a 3919 or something. And I was keeping my cadence up. And it was just going tick, tick, tick. You know, it was intermittent. You could just hear the chain just fighting everything. And earlier in the week, I would be on the big chain ring and would just downshift on its own for no reason. And that should have alerted me that the pins were out of alignment. That will cause that. But as I climbed this, you know, I was just keeping the cadence moderate, and Paul heard it. He heard the noise. It was one of those things. I kept fiddling with the on-bike adjusting cable, you know, the one near the top tube there. I used that to the barrel adjuster. Try to tweak a few things, but it would only go so far. I had planned to take everything apart and see what was going on. And it was one of those things that just happened all of a sudden, maybe 10 days ago. Because I rode this thing in a Rafa Festive 500 with the same wheel and everything was fine. So it just shortened the life of the chain, the stuff that was stuck in there, and it jammed that little spring. So that spring was not working, it was not keeping its alignment. The spring is important to keep the skewers aligned. So right here I'm powering the gear and I'm feeling pretty good. And we've got a little bit of a mist, so we know the water's in the area. We had like a 70% chance of rain at the start of the ride, but it wasn't raining on us. But we figured we'd run into it. That's the reason I picked the rain cape today, because I wanted something that would be foldable if the rain stopped. So Paul is sitting on my left because the wind is coming from in front and on the right. We got a northeasterly flow today. We head north. East is on the right. Saturday is when we can get out. Rain shines, and then broken chain. Nothing stopped us. So I'm very thankful for my wife. She was able to get out there pretty quickly. She's a sweetheart. She understands that Saturday is when we can get the kilometers in. Glad we're able to finish this ride. We did not shorten the ride. We just rode. It was just the conditions were tougher this week. It was a lot windier, and then driving rain later in the ride. It's John Cooper Road. We turn right here. Unfortunately, we turned the camera off before the chain broke, so we don't have any footage of it. But basically, the intersection we're coming up to is about maybe a block. We stop over here. Yeah, the noise is bugging me to the point, and then we got mud guards rubbing. There's a bunch of crap going on. I told them let's stop so I could check it out. That's why we stopped. This is where we turned the camera off. So we rode another block after the camera went off, and the chain broke. So after 20 minutes, my wife dropped off the bike. We headed to Tomball.
Now it's moving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we're on the outskirts of Tomball, getting the camera situated. So you can see I've got the blue bike, and we swapped the mud guards and everything over from the other bike. That's one thing cool about those mud guards. Once they're set up, it's easy. So it was very, very fortunate that my wife was able to bring this other bike so we could continue our ride. I'm very happy that I figured out why the chain broke. That was bugging. Never had a chain break on me before. That's not something that's an everyday occurrence unless you're messing with those links that you don't hook up properly. The chains I use, they have pins and they're permanent. Especially with the 11 speed, you put them on there, it's a one-time thing. I take them off when it's time to replace them. That's been my experience. That's why I was very bugged when it broke, especially 2 months of use. So I had me puzzled. It's good to get that sorted. So right here, I do a little track stand because the left turn light goes yellow there, it turns red. And there's a slight delay before you get the grain. They do that on purpose just in case somebody's running the left turn or trying to turn left turn late. It's one of those skills I picked up when I used to ride at the track. So I decided to just stand for this climb. We're going into the wind. I opened the jacket to make sure I stayed cool because I did not want to overheat on this thing. I think I stand back up. Yeah, this is where I stand. I stand here. I'm in a moderate gear, probably a 53, 23 or something like that. It's a 62 inch can hear the wind. You can hear the wind blowing. As we get higher, it was blowing more and more. You see my jacket all over the place, and it just made it harder to get up there. And I was just trying to keep things steady, basically dragging the bike over. This thing is about 5% at this point. It says 1 here. I guess it's leveling off now, but you can hear the wind. It's kicking. So it's coming from the left, from east. You see, I blew my jacket all over the place. So it really picked up there. And that's, the weather was changing at this point. You can see it's overcast. And in a few miles, we ran into the rain. And there are parts of the ride where it rained so heavily, we simply could not film. You wouldn't be able to see anything. Plus, we risk the calibration of the gimbal. You're not supposed to use it in too much rain. So most of the filming is the drier parts of very light rain. Right here, I move over to use this lane because it's a part of the shoulder that they use to make a right turn, and it squeezes the smaller shoulder. I don't like cars coming around when we're taking this corner. That's the reason I did that. So the wind lessens a bit right here. Right here, after doing the bridge, I decided I better go ahead and zip up my jacket. And I'm trying to make sure that I don't get a gust of wind, because you got to be careful when you do hands-free in conditions where it's very windy. Don't take that for granted. It can blow your front wheel and cause you to fall. So because of the freeway over there and everything, I decided this is a good spot. We don't have too much wind. So I zipped my jacket up. We got the green light. So I told Paul, I said, if you'd like, we can just alternate on this is Zion Road. I said, should be pretty interesting because it's always a drag on this road. It's a challenge to ride it. I really like this stretch as well. And in a little while, I think I mentioned to him where the draft is. I'm always trying to, yeah, right there. So the draft is on my right. So I move a little to the left. And I'm pretty much right where the right tire of the car is right. It gives Paul a little bit of room if he wants to use that. And I didn't realize that at the time, of course, because I'm wearing the jacket, but just looking at it on film, the thing I noticed is I left the sleeves unzipped, and so there's wind coming in. That's why it looks a little puffed. But what I like is that the wind on the outer side of the jacket is not flapping it. Like our Pectimo jackets last week was just flapping in the wind. And that's just drag right there. Granted, I've got wind. You can see the arms are puffed up because I've got it open just to keep me cooler. This is Zion Road. We turn right here on Zion Road. The rain jacket feels like a jersey. About the only thing it doesn't have are pockets on the back. It has a side pocket where you can put a gel on just above your hip, your left hip. I think it's a nice feature, so you can put something that you need to reach, so you don't have to go in the back pockets, because to access the pockets you got to pull the jacket up. But the jacket came in handy because when it was raining really hard, we'd turn off the gimbal and we'd put the gimbal in my pocket and put the rain jacket over it, so the gimbal was protected. And so I was like, that's really cool. I kind of like that feature. But I really enjoyed everything about the jacket. It kept me dry. I didn't have any problems. And that's why I was saying earlier, I'm going to re-engineer what's going on with the pedals, because I think the bottom of the cleats, water come in through the cleat holes. So logically, I'm thinking if I put a film under my pedal and just frame the pedal, cut a nice film like the helicopter, they call it helicopter tape. Some people call it paint protection film, but I use them on my bikes. I will cover the bottom of the pedal because my shoe ventilation is already covered. I'll just cover that and see if that reduces the dampness that I felt on my feet. At this point, I was not really paying attention to speed. I'm kind of surprised. I'm looking. It didn't seem like we're going that fast. I mean, 31, 32 kilometers an hour is almost 20. It felt slower to me, but maybe because of the conditions. Where Paul gave me the camera here so he can take a pull. We had been battling the rain on and off. It was one of those days where the showers were scattered. So this is one of the dry sections. We're on the way to Tomball, so we take the back way into that park. We did not slow down in that park today. We rode it. We kept the pressure on the whole time. We didn't back off at all. It was really good. We just kept rolling. The wind seemed to be everywhere as the rain was moving around. It seemed to be swirling. You see, I'm on Paul's right. I'm staying right pretty much next to the white line. There's not much of an extra piece of pavement after the white line, so I'm just riding the white line. I ended up adjusting the camera back there just shortly before this spot. The view was a little low, I could tell, and I kind of manually moved it. I mentioned that to Paul. Sometimes when you hold in the gimbal, the angle gets a little skewed depending on how your movements or how erratic your movements are. We're slowing down for the stop sign up there. This is where I go ahead and tell Paul I'm going to come in on his right. And I just give him the camera because I explained to him it's better to keep the camera on your right since the person in front of you is on the left. If you put the camera on the left, you would just only get the back of that person. By putting it on the right, when the person's on the left, you can see the entire scene. So here I'm just trying to get a rhythm going. This is a grade. It's less than 1%, but it's a false flat. You can see there's the wind swirling around, and look at that jacket, it's not moving at all. That's the difference. The other jacket, which is more foldable from Pactimo, that's the one that I got at about, I think, $50. It's nice and very portable, but it flaps around so much. And anything flapping around is creating drag. So that was good to see. The difference is clear. It's just a different design, a better design. If it were a warm day, I would probably just wear a very light jersey and then wear that jacket and it would be fine. It does not really give you much insulation per se. It's very light. It's just designed to block water. And it's very breathable. Grade lessons here is a slight downhill. I think it gets to like -1. Yeah, there, it pops up -1. And all I'm doing is staying in a reasonably sized gear and just keeping my cadence up. And if your bike doesn't fit you, it's hard to do this kind of stuff. To spin at a high cadence, your bike needs to be comfortable. You can't really push at a high cadence. So if your saddle's too high, you will keep your cadence low because all you're doing is pushing with your quads. It's hard to spin with a high saddle. It just doesn't work. Because to spin, you need to use all phases of the cycling pedal circle. So if you're having trouble maintaining a high cadence comfortably, check your fit. Get through a couple of stop signs here, and for some reason we run into a traffic jam. they're still building the Tomball Expressway, they call it, which is going to be like a toll road.
Yeah.
I think shortly Paul talks about this pilot. My wife has a pilot.
Look, compared to Melissa's truck, this is a pilot.
I hate this design. Yeah, that's
Looks like a van. Yeah.
They ruined it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the 2011 my wife has a more distinctive styling than this one.
I like the
This one
box
looks like a
look there.
mutt. It looks like everything else out there.
Yep.
They ruined it.
Yeah, we noticed that.
Yep.
That's what he's talking about. The 2011, I don't know when they changed the style on this one. She has a 2011 and it's just a tough looking truck. If you take all the badges off, you still know it's a pilot. This thing, when she saw it, the first thing she told me was, I better take care of mine.
Yeah.
Because they've ruined it. I don't know why they feel the need to change stuff every year. It's hard to come up with a good design every year. The Germans go 6-7 years before they modify a model.
When I saw this, I said, what's wrong with the style?
Guys,
that
Japanese
they had?
guys, every year they want to come up with a new one. They just end up recycling the same designs. That one looks like a Mitsubishi.
Every year, gotta change. The Germans go 7 years before they change that.
My wife has a Pilot that looks like a bulldog. And then we added some trim and other things in there. Made the bumper look real mean. It looks like it wants to bite you.
Yeah.
That's what Paul's talking about. He said he likes the one she has. I do too. It's like a truck. This thing looks like a van. Looks like the Honda Odyssey. That'll look like a truck. I use the time while we're standing at this light to take my rain cape off, fold it, and put it in my back pocket. I folded it hurriedly so it wasn't as small a profile as it normally is when you fold it with enough time. But I just wanted to get it off because the rain had kind of stopped in this section anyway. It's in my middle pocket. I think I'm pushing it back down. That's what making sure it's in there. Which it was.
That's the main reason I bought it, man.
Yeah.
Pull that bad boy up. I didn't hold it very well, but look at it.
Yeah.
I folded it hurriedly because the light was about to change. 15-20 seconds of work to put that in there, and it was in place. You can tell by the skies that there's more rain in the air, so I think I'll be using it. This is our little shortcut for those of you who have not seen this route to the park, Spring Creek Park.
Yeah, try.
There's a lab at the top of the hill up there on the right that always gets excited when we come on this route. He's wearing a sweater. And I think we get a good shot of him today because usually the camera doesn't pick him up, but Paul got him today.
Yeah.
He's right there. He's wearing a pink sweater, and he's a brown lab, but he's got one of his paws is white.
His feet. His paws is white.
He always gets excited when we come by.
It's actually his.
I thought he was wearing shoes. Paul said it's part of his coat. He's brown and he's got like a white patch on his front paw. So since it's just the two of us, the plan was we're just gonna ride these hills hard and steady and not back off. I told him we're gonna keep the pressure on, go into the park, and don't let up or down. So that was the plan here. Kind of like a tempo pace, really. Getting into the bottom of zone 4. Pick these routes to ride because they're quiet. They have a few intersections, but there are long stretches where you can get a good workout, and the traffic volume is consistently fairly low. And that's the key, because really we go out to ride to get a workout, not to deal with congestion. So these routes are not accidental. We actually look them up and we plan them. And then sometimes we'll try a road here, try a road there that's on the way. But I spend a lot of time looking on the maps, getting to know. And then sometimes we'll hook up with other groups and we ride with them and then incorporate some of the routes they do into what we do. You know, this was when we used to hook up with some of the groups in the area. But with the rain like it has been, nobody else is out here riding. I joked, I told Paul, I said, I hope it rains every Saturday for the next 2 months. You know, if rain is going to stop you from riding, you can't be too serious about it. But this is the third week in a row that it's rained on Saturday. That's very unusual for this area. Might as well be in Seattle, you know. So I'm loving it. I've gotten to where I like the rain. I'll take the rain over the heat any day. The little kid tried to like get out in our path. I was like, might want to put her on a leash. So we just kept it steady, try to keep the effort close, going up or down. A couple of kids there on bikes. I'm not sure what they were doing. Go ahead and roll through. And then we go through the stop sign here, and then on the other side, there's a lady that crosses the street and never even looked our way, and we were coming, you know, at a pretty decent pace, and she just walked across the road. Even some of the kids that she was walking with looked at her like, did you not see them? And you guys will see it. It's just she was just in deep thought. You could tell. I was just watching her face, and this is something to just be aware of when you're around pedestrians. Expect the unexpected, because they do strange stuff. Because they don't hear an engine, so they don't look. You know, our bicycles are quiet, which is really the way you want it. A noisy bicycle says you got problems. So as we crest that little rise up there, you'll see them. So right after I get to this hill, I can see them. There's a bunch of people on the right. So I wave Paul over. That lady right there, she didn't even look our way. We're moving, and she just starts to cross the street. Even the kids looked at her like, I mean, she oblivious to us. As we went by, she never even noticed we were there.
Yeah, she didn't even look.
They don't hear an engine, and they just walk in your path. So you need to be careful of pedestrians. They're dangerous. So, because I was paying attention, because I've seen pedestrians do stuff like that, it wasn't as close as it could have been. But she did just walk out in our path. So we get to this part of the climb back here. This gets to like, I think 6 or 7% of it, right? Yeah, it says 6 right there. So I just basically keep the effort about the same. My heart rate's gonna go back up because it had gone down when we were freewheeling back there after that lady crossed our path. But I'm using RPE to just keep the tempo the same. And we did the park very quickly. We didn't mess around. Couldn't use the dirt over there because this car was coming, so I just slowed down for the speed bump. This climb is about 2%. I think it stays between about 2% for the most part. We're keeping the same effort. And I use pretty much RPE to keep the pace, and I'll glance at my heart rate periodically. So it's like 167, that's like sweet spot. Not really going that hard, just kind of tempo. Just a little above zone 3. Now we're creeping into zone 4. One thing about hills, they get your heart rate up. They're just, you know, riding hills will make you strong. You can't goof off. You'd have to would be riding a baby gear to not do work on a climb. And then we're climbing and going into the wind here. By the time on our return, all the pedestrians are gone. I'm not sure what was going on because it's raining. Usually you don't see a lot of people out. But it was good that they were out there. You can't let the weather stop you. It's a beautiful park. There's a lot of trails and stuff that they can use. So it was good to see people out here. Stop here at the restroom to use the facilities for a little bit. This park is very well maintained. They have one of the cleanest restrooms I've seen anywhere. It's consistently kept up. You know, it's just you walk in there, there's plenty of space and just clean.
That's right.
So they do a good job. So we like to stop here whenever possible. It's cleaner than some of the convenience stores we come across.
We did that part quick.
Exactly, that's what I noticed. No messing around.
The rain picked up, so I put my jacket on. And I just turned on the camera because it slowed down a little bit.
Just turned this back on after a deluge.
Yeah, we were pounded.
It got rained on heavily. The rain has died down. So go ahead and film this part.
When we left the park, the rain just came down. Just very, very heavily. So here I hand the camera to Paul. Told him let's get on with it, let's get home. Put our heads out. It's windy and this rain is whipping across and it's everywhere. So right now it's not raining heavily, but once we get to 29-20 it picks up a little bit. But we just went ahead and continued to film because I told them that with the way the rain was blowing, it wasn't heavy the whole time, so we'd be okay using the camera. I'm waving a car. Patiently sitting. This road is chewed up, so I had used the center of the lane when he was waiting.
Yeah, I had to take mine off.
Yeah, I told Paul my glasses were performing well. That the rain did not disturb them that much. There were some drops on them, but with the wind and the rain, they got blown off. He said he had to take off his glasses. Basically sat up to zip up that jacket, and it has a flap that seals the zipper. Closed it up. The wind's picking up and it's raining. So we have the wind from the right in our face. You can hear the wind. Fishing in there for a gel, and And one thing, when you're wearing gloves and you go in your pocket, be careful. Make sure you take your time, because you end up, if you're not careful, you can pull more of your content than you were going after. If you have other stuff in there, like you got a couple of bars, you end up pulling your bars and some of them can fall on the street. So that's why you saw me take my time. I make sure I have a positive feel for what I'm getting out before, and then I just slide it out carefully. I don't want to empty the contents of my pocket on the road, because I have several things in there. I want to make sure just that came up. And I finished with the gels. I think I end up sitting up. Yeah, I put it under the blue jersey. That's where I keep the wrapper. I don't care for throwing stuff out when I'm out. So with all that wind, if you look at that jacket, even though I have the zipper on the arms open for ventilation, that's why you can see winds getting under it. But if you look at it, it's not flapping around. In a short while, I end up zipping it up because it's cooled off enough. I end up zipping up the arms, and they're designed for that reason, to give you ventilation. I thought that's really smart. There's just little things that they put in there. They put a lot of thought into the stuff that they produce. They set the bar pretty high. The rest of the guys are going to have to step up. Approaching the FM 2920, which will take us east. I don't want to stop on this hill behind this car. It's a short little grade and it's wet, so thankfully he pulled away. I was gonna go on his ride anyway, get on his shoulder. I don't want to stop on an incline when it's wet. It's hard to get going, it's slippery. So I slow down here to make sure Paul catches up. Sometimes even with the mud flaps, there's a little bit of splatter. So I think he just hung back at that intersection because that car was in the way. But now we're on 2920 and we're moving east. We're going into the wind. See the spray up right there. The wind's blowing, it's raining, and in a little while I tell Paul just keep filming, because there's sections where it rains hard and then sections where it's just completely dry, then the rain stops, so it's just, we don't have time to keep putting up the game. You can see the waters splattering. I think that's why I told him that the rain has stopped over here. You can see the spray getting on the camera. And Paul kept up with it, he kept cleaning it.
okay. Stay there for a while. You feel like you need a break. Go ahead.
Yeah, I came back for Paul to come to the front. Oh man, it's time we got you on camera. He said we're going pretty good. I said, yeah, you go up there till you need a break, and then I'll come back. So the entire ride, this part of the ride, you got rain, you got wind, and I just found myself liking it. It's just we've had 3 Saturdays in a row with rain, and that's the reason why, if you're serious about being fit and if you ride to live like we do, you can't let the weather stop you. I mean, what if it rains for 2 months? You're not gonna ride outside? So, you know, you just gotta get what you need and get out there. They have the equipment for it. I'm gonna try to re-engineer the pedals somehow to keep water from getting through the cleats. I've got some ideas I mentioned earlier, because the Shimano pedals, the bottom's open, and I'm gonna cover it with a plastic film. They call it helicopter tape. I use the same thing on the bottom of my shoes, and see if that reduces the amount of dampness I felt, because the shoe covers did their job. And then the next thing I'm going to try, next time I ride when it's cold and wet, I will put my tights over the rain shoe covers, so that the water dripping can drip on the outside of the covers, not inside, because that's another place that I felt dampness, the top of my ankles. So those little changes should really make a big difference. That's the Castelli Gabba rain jersey, the convertible jacket that Paul has. You can see they have vents under the pocket, a little bit red that you see. It was a good choice for him to do the black and white shorts. I don't like to do all black on a day like this. You're just not as visible. You know, so, and then another thing, well, you know, if you must do that, you need to have lights like we have. That does make a big difference in your visibility. I'm sitting on Paul's right because the wind's coming from in front and from the left. And I've got the camera on the right because he's on my left. So I don't want the lens to just be focused on him. This way you get the shot of the scene. So this is like a echelon. We're slowing down for the light as well. I appear to be getting closer. The Rafa winter hat I'm wearing, the blue one.
I had to adjust it. It was too low.
I'm talking about the lens. The lens had gotten low because I was starting to get his gears, and it didn't readjust. But that hat I'm wearing did not allow water to get through to touch my head, so it beads water. So whatever the Pro Team winter cap fabric is, it's really good in the wet. I went back and read the additional product description, and it did briefly mention that. So that was not an accident. And it's only good on a cold, wet day. On a hot day, it's not
Next time we'll put this outside.
A warm cap.
So you got like the warm.
That's what I'm telling Paul. I'll put the tights outside. You can see how I just step in my cleat and it clips in. I don't have my pedal tension high. I keep them very low. They don't need to be high. That's not what keeps you in the pedal. So keep that in mind. If you're struggling to clip in and having to push down with a lot of force, lower the pedal tension. So at this point, I'm keeping the tempo up. And just in my mind, let's get this ride over with. You can see our duration is approaching 5 hours. I mean, with the delay, waiting for the bike, that was an extra half hour easy. And so, but we did not shorten the ride. We wanted to get the miles in. It was very windy, rainy, so it was challenging. So we didn't cover as much ground, but we still got the time and the conditioning. It's there. Like I said, your body doesn't care how much ground you cover. What it cares about is how hard you worked and for how long. That's all that matters. Because when you're going later and you need to go hard, your body must be conditioned enough to go hard for that duration that you've prepared it for. And by doing these long rides, when you go fast, you go really fast. Right here, I got in the drops because it just felt good. You can see the wind getting under the zipper there. In a little while, I ended up zipping it up. I'll point it out. But it's a nice feature on the sleeves. You got zippers that you can zip up to let wind come in. And just, so it's clear that these things are designed and they're tested on the road before they release them to us. Because a lot of the stuff I'll take for granted, like marketing speak, it just works. You see my position, I'm very aero here. I move to the hoods. My body does not change, just my arms. It's slightly more comfortable here, and I think it has been proven there's a lot more aero than the drops. But sometimes I like to be in the drops just for the feel of it. It just seems to feel like in certain situations. You can hear that wind. And on this road, there's no escaping the wind. There is no shelter. The camera never does this light justice. The Surface UTL 60, I think I've got a UTL 85 now. That's the lumens. That light is so powerful that if you look directly at it, it hurts your eyes. And they tell you in the literature, don't look at it. But the camera never seems to really produce how it displays in real life consistently. Looks a little muted, but it's not. I think it's visible. I've had drivers tell me about it and say, is that something new on bicycles? I said, no, it's just a light I put on it. Oh, they all should have it. Some lady told me a long time ago, I mentioned it in one of the other videos. I've been looking at that light wondering what it was for like a mile away. So yeah, you get seen. And the light in the front, all of $14. I liked it so much, bought 2 of them. And they work. USB rechargeable. They're lightweight, unobtrusive, and they just, I got it on the fast blink. It works. Paul was the first to use the fast blink one day after we got the light. I used to just have it on a slower blink, and I saw how effective it was, so I adopted that setting. And so I just leave them on the bike. Got 2 of them. They're easy to put on, easy to take off. You can see that it's actively raining. All that stuff that looks like mist is actually rain. You see it on the lens of the camera. And at this point, I'm really enjoying the ride. If you look closely, you'll see the rain flicker by against my shorts. That's the rain being driven by the wind. And just having the right gear, I mean, it was not a problem. Chance favors the prepared mind. This guy's parked on the side of the road here. That's why I looked back to use the main lane. His engine was running. I'm not sure what's going on there. So I wanted to give him a wide berth, just in case he decided to pull away, pull into the lane. I'm trying to make this light here. see the rain. This was so much fun. When you're equipped properly, riding in the rain is a joy. No squishy feet. My hands were dry. Those thin-suited gloves from Endura performed admirably. You can see Paul is in the draft here. We're moving. There's a little above tempo effort, just slightly. I wave him up. Oh yeah, I wave him up to ask him to make sure that he cleaned the lens, and he said he had just cleaned it with all this rain. And he cleaned it here. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we didn't just film the rain. With the wind, it's not that bad because when the raindrops hit the lens, the wind actually ends up blowing the raindrops out of the way. You can see the rain all over the place. It's great. It's just a beautiful day for a bike ride. So I will put the link, if it's not already there, I will verify and check the website and make sure it's put out there. The thin-suited laminate gloves from Endura, I've had them for a little over a year. Got them last winter. Just hadn't really put them to the test that much, but they did the job. They get a little wet on the outside, but water does not get through to your hand. And they don't hold a lot of water. When I got home, they were a little damp. I tried to wring them. Not much water came out of them. But on the inside, I got a nice warm fleece. So my hands stayed dry after 3+ hours in the rain. Well, like 4.5 hours in the rain. So they did their job. If it were a colder morning, I would have worn the Rafa deep winter gloves. When it's wet like that and you take off from an intersection, be careful with those white lines. They can cause your rear wheel to slip. So when you're taking off, it's best not to have your wheel on the line as you put torque on the chain, because they can slip on you. I've had that happen a few times. Didn't cause me any problems, but it's good to be aware of that. Those white lines are painted lines, and they're slippery when it's wet. When you're cornering and stuff like that, you got to watch those white lines. You can't lean too much on them. So right here, the rain ceased, and so I told Paul the rain has stopped, and I actually missed the rain a bit there. It was feeling pretty good. When you're equipped properly, the elements don't bother you. Whether it's rain or just cold weather, or even in the summer when it's very hot and you wear the right jersey and you're acclimated, you have enough water, you don't worry about the weather. It's just great. Part of the pavement up here, I think it's somewhere here where it's kind of chewed up. Every time we come through here, I wish they would come and smooth it out. So I think I end up looking back here, right there, because I want to use the main lanes. The car is far back enough to where I'm going to use the main lane and roll back. It's like the pavement is pitted right there. They were building an apartment complex or something, and those trucks used them to get in there. Just tore up the road. Heavy equipment, probably cats. It just never came back to fix the road. I end up doing a short epilogue for you guys to show you after the ride how dry I was and the effectiveness of this jacket. I actually did a close-up to where you can actually see the water just sitting on the jacket like it would be on your windshield of your car. Just, you know, droplets of water that just does not go through the jacket. It just pretty much falls off. At the different intersections, I would shake my body like the dogs do, and the water would just fall off. It was really cool. Oh, man. I love products that work as intended. So we're taking the long way. So even though we've been out for a while, since it's Paul and I, you know, Saturday is our day, I figure we'll take the long way home. So we turn right over there. Take Albany Klein. It's a bit of a challenging road. In a short while, it kind of has a grade. It's a little exposed. And then at the end of the ride, it's always challenging coming down through here. You hear that wind. You can't let the wind bother you. Don't worry about how fast you're traveling. Focus on what effort you're putting out. Whether you got a parameter, whether you got a heart rate monitor, whether you're using the rate of perceived exertion. Put out the same effort. Don't worry about speed. Speed doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how fast you're going. You're working hard enough, you'll be there when it counts. Your body will be able to tolerate that effort. We don't ride these rides at maximum speed. This is our cruising tempo. But if we need to go faster, we can. You don't need to train at your max all the time. You don't want to do that. That's too hard on you. But you build your endurance, and then when it's time to ramp it up, you will actually be anxious to do that, and you will be prepared because you have been conditioned. So we put in the hours so that when we decide to go faster, it's not a problem. Now, Paul took some good shots on the side here. You can see I'm on the hoods there. I get on the drops. We're going directly into the wind. Look at that jacket. The wind swirling around, that thing is just steady. At this point, I zipped up the arms already. So I pulled the zipper. It has zipper on the sleeves. And you see I have it unzipped partially at the top there, because it's a little warm with that thermal jersey underneath. Paul came to the front to get a good shot. In a short while, we'll move back to the front. At this point in the ride, I'm feeling good. I've got a rhythm going. That's why I told Paul after this stretch, I said, man, I was rolling. He said, yeah, it was good. So I roll past him here, back to the front. Just keeping my cadence respectful. Since the wind's going nowhere, I decide, let's get this over with. So that little break from Paul was all I needed to get back to the front and ramp it up. So we're out there, it says 5 hours duration. Our riding time might be like 4 something. We didn't do much stopping other than waiting for the bike change. We just did necessary stop short and just continued. Check, it's clear. Those are the white lines I'm talking about. They're paint and they're slipping. It didn't matter which direction we turned in. It just seemed the wind was there. We headed south. The wind's coming from the left and behind us, but the wind from the east to our left is the stiffest one. So we got a northeasterly flow of wind. Because I use the old school bars, the rounded bars, I have so many more positions. You see where my hands are? I'm not quite on the hoods and I'm not quite on the tops. It's like the curve of the bar, slightly before you get to the hoods. That's a good position to hold because you can still reach your shifters without moving your hands. And it's another position. I love these bars. They're deep drop bars and you have like 5 or 6 positions you can use. I like to stick with what works. You know, they come up with new things all the time. I have an open mind. I check them out. But if it's not an improvement, they can keep it. Just come up with something for the sake of coming up with something. I'm not into that. So I'll try anything once. If it works, why not? If it doesn't, you stay with what works. At this point here, we turn on. Usually we cool down here, but for some reason today we just kept rolling. And we alternated. Paul will go to the front for a little bit, and then I would go back. I think this is where Paul goes to the front. That's a good shot there. We kept getting the look from people. You know, as we were riding on this day, it didn't matter whether it was drivers or pedestrians. They were kind of surprised we were out there. But the thing is we were so well equipped, it didn't matter what the wind was and the rain was doing. And maybe that's what they were looking at, the fact that we were not bothered by what the weather was doing. And just having the right equipment, they know you're on your game. Hear that wind, it's just out there. Right there, I'm actually on the hoods. The other position I was talking about is slightly behind the hoods. Choose your equipment carefully. You get the right equipment, you're in the business. It makes a world of difference on your comfort when you're out there. There's no way I would ride without shoe covers in the rain. Unless I got caught in an unexpected shower. It's just a tremendous difference. Even if your feet get a little damp, they're nowhere near as wet as they would be if you had no covers and no cleanup. You just peel that thing off, rinse them off, you're ready to go. Your shoes are clean. It's harder to clean your shoes. I think it enhances the life of your shoes. You're not messing around cleaning them all the time. As much as we ride, if I had to wash those shoes all the time or get all the grit out of them, they probably wouldn't last. The biggest thing to make sure you dry them quickly. Don't let them sit around damp. I think I made a video a while back about how you dry them. It's in the playlist with the kit. So I'm driving the pedals here. I am feeling really good this morning for some reason. And even though it's the end of the ride and we've been out there for like more than 5 hours, I'm pushing to the point where I'm back into zone 4. And if you're training for something, this is when you want to do your hardest effort at the end of a long ride. That's when it really matters. You're teaching your body to go hard when you're tired. So I'm driving here into the wind. I don't think it's raining as much at this time. intersection coming up. I think about maybe an eighth of a mile. So somewhere around here, I just kind of let off right there. When we stop here, we notice, and last week we noticed the same thing I mentioned when Paul, when he stops, his rear brakes are not stopping as effectively. You see, he got close to this truck. He just seems to stop a lot slower than I do.
No, especially the back.
Yeah, how far it is from the rim. Well, I'll clean the rim. There might be something on the rim. All right, this man, when you get home, pick a rag and clean the rim. Yeah, the pads and the plastic pads.
So I'm suggesting to him maybe clean the rims, clean the pads when you get home, and we'll see. But if it's not improving, we need to look at the system and look at the cabling, make sure nothing's grabbing. But we need to look at that because his rear brakes, he says, is stopping slower. The front is fine. But really, I use my rear most of the time, especially just to slow me down. But it grabs. So that's what we're discussing there. You want to make sure they're working properly. Last week he stopped and he said his rear was slipped. I think it's not stopping. And he might need some new pads. I don't really know. It's a different brand. But usually you seem to have enough pads, and sometimes you get glazing on the pads. You know, a lot of times I'll take sandpaper to the pad and just clean off that layer. That may be all it needs, but we'll have to look at it before the next ride. We'll see how his schedule is. We'll get to check it out. So we're pretty much winding down the ride at this point. So right here we're just kind of chilling, and you can see my cadence is a little below 90. We're not really riding anymore. We're winding it down. At the intersection up there, I turn right with Paul so we can ride halfway to his home, so that he doesn't ride home alone. As far as his whole warm down, so we're gonna warm down together, and then I will turn back and ride back. So that's the intersection. Normally we would go straight, but then he has a longer ride. So we turn right here, so I can ride another 2 or 3 miles with him. And he will be almost home when we split up. So this is what we did on Saturday. I hope you got a chance to get out. If you didn't, get on the trainer, get outside, move your body. Fire those doctors, keep moving. Stay tuned for the epilogue where I talk about the functions of this jersey and how it fared in the rain with everything else, my kit. Hello, legends and super legends. I just got back from our Saturday ride, and we got rained on. It's probably about 8C, between 7 and 9C was most of the day. So it's cold and it's raining, driving rain. And the reason why I decided to do this epilogue is that I got the Rafa Rain cape in, and I'm completely sold. This thing did its job. It's very lightweight, but it's completely waterproof. In fact, when we're going really hard, I had to pretty much zip this down a little bit. It's got Velcro on here to keep this seam covered for the zipper. But I don't know if you guys can see too well. The water is still on the jacket. It just beads. I'm going to shake it. It's going to probably be hard for you to see. But there's water on the jacket. I'm going to come up close to the camera. Maybe it'll pick it up. I don't know. Yeah, you see the water here? That's a bead all over the jacket. If I shake, it's just like a dog shaking, all the water just falls off. And I was messing around at every intersection. I would just shake and the water would just fall. So this thing did its job. Add
admirably. I mean, I can see why they're asking, let's see, $320 for it. I got it at 50% off. And I'm glad I did. I picked this color. They had this in green on sale. And the green just seemed like it would blend in with the surroundings. So I picked this light blue, which really stands out. But at this point, you've seen it on the video. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was my Peogia 3 shoe covers, which are in the garage. I have a video. I'll put a little link here at the end. You can look at it. It's made by Castelli, and they kept my feet. My feet are just slightly damp. This is almost 4 hours in the rain. And they're just a little damp. I'm not sure where it's coming from. I'm going to check because I'm picky like that because I want it to be completely dry. But nothing can keep it completely dry because you have room for the cleats, front and back, and so maybe water gets in there. But I had gone the extra step of sealing the vent under my shoe with that little helicopter tape they call them. So I'll try to figure out where it's coming from. But I decided to wear the protein tights with pad because the Lycra it's made of is almost close to like a skin suit and it beads water. So it was really good in the rain. A little bit got through because it's not waterproof. They don't sell that as a feature, but it beads water. So it was a good ride, and I came home. I'm dry. I'm standing here with water on my jacket, but I'm dry. And the cap's a little wet, but nothing got to my head. So the winter cap, the protein winter cap worked great as well. So anyway, hope you guys got a chance to get your K's in. If not, get on the trainer. Don't let anything stop you.